I've spent hundreds of hours playing clicker games like Cookie Clicker, NGO Idol, newer hits like Nodebuster, Dixium, Max Manos, and so many mobile games. Finally, I have discovered the hidden secrets that make these games so appealing, and it's so much more than simply watching numbers go up. Clicker games might seem like mindless time killers, but their simplicity is deceiving. These games tap into your core human psychology, making them not just fun, but downright addictive. As a game developer and idle game enjoyer myself, I have gathered these surprisingly deep strategies clicker games use to keep us all coming back for more. Clicker games very often contain simple and repetitive core mechanics, like clicking, which even your grandma could master. This leads to a casual and relaxed experience where the player feels fully competent and gets rewarded constantly. The simplicity of the core ideas in most clicker and idle games makes them universally playable for different groups, although many will knock them for being too simple. NGO Idol would like to talk with them though. This factor of infinite rewards and minimal challenge is the main thing that turns some people off from these games though, but the people who don't mind, really don't mind. These days people might not want to come back from a 9 to 5 just to die in Dark Souls 500 times. Relaxing is fun. Every aspect of clicker games tries to maximize the brain's dopamine output. For example, let's take Cookie Clicker or my game, The Best Duck Clicker, for example. Just clicking activates a satisfying sound effects and visuals, which are appealing by themselves. In my game as well, there's a health bar, and after you grind it down you get your reward. This adds more anticipation, and also more options for upgrades later on. On top of the sound and visual elements, the main psychological contributor to dopamine release in the brain is the reward. Many games tie it directly to money, so we already associate it very positively. Some games don't do this though. The reward itself gets boring after a while, like those stupid banana pseudo gambling games, which aren't really games at all, at least if you're just considering the thrilling gameplay. To keep the reward interesting, it has to scale. When the reward scales, we make progress, and when we make progress, our brains get very happy. Clicker games are often made to be infinitely replayable. This allows the player to keep purchasing more and more upgrades to scale further and further. To break up this infinite gameplay loop, most games will add in goals or new mechanics or upgrades to unlock, which spice up what would otherwise be a very one-dimensional game. For example, Cookie Clicker has you unlock new minigames that you can use to boost your cookie gains. It also has randomly timed golden cookies that pop up for a limited time on your screen, which yield variably immense rewards. This give and take luck creates a lot of anticipation in the player, which activates the just a bit longer effect, like playing one more game of chess or Counter-Strike. Yay. In the more modern incremental age though, a lot of them do have an ending, which makes them a lot easier to design. Creating infinite content is quite a lot of work and requires a lot of playtesting. Why is gambling fun? The thrill of potential gains chains people into playing. In clicker games, luck is a key part of creating an experience you can't put down. The effect definitely isn't as strong or dangerous when not using any real money, but the chemicals in your brain are still real. The constant anticipation signal in our brains telling us to have one more chance at a high roll is quite strong. That's why most clicker games include some kind of element of luck. For example, the aforementioned golden cookies in Cookie Clicker, rare treasure rewards and chests, or capturing a duck in my game. A key part of most idle and clicker games is the ability to restart your game to gain long-term benefits. There are several reasons for this. The first being that this adds a new currency you gain, which can be spent on new and sometimes unique sets of upgrades. Adding more content like this is the bread and butter of clicker games. The less obvious reason though is that since you're more powerful the next time around, the absolute feeling of power that the player gets is very rewarding. The rewarding formula at work here is specifically this kind of power curve where you start off slow, then you start making big progress until you eventually hit a plateau, then reset, go all the way down, but blast through the previous starting conditions with your newfound power, and then plateau again, repeat. Clicker games are incredibly simple to code and produce, compared to, for example, action platformers, roguelikes, Metroidvanias, or any multiplayer games. Now, to be clear, any of these game genres can be made quickly, but it'll very clearly show in the final product. It is completely feasible to make a good clicker game in a short time. For example, I made a clicker game in 7 days and released it on Steam. Now, creating more complicated systems still takes time, but nailing the addictiveness is surprisingly simple. The beginnings of idle games were strongly rooted in parody. Games like Progress Quest, which literally completely plays itself, and Anti-Idle. Eventually, the game started developing further with titles like Cookie Clicker, which pioneered the clicker type, and Adventure Capitalists until they properly started heading towards the mainstream in the mid-2010s. Have you ever spent $100 on an idle game? Most likely not, but surprisingly, it's an insanely effective way of monetizing your game. Combining these addictive factors with earlier plateaus so the player feels more stuck can strongly encourage them to spend some of their precious money to purchase some virtual points that help them make more fake money. Ads are another way that mobile games are monetized. Little rewards and unlocks are blocked behind a short ad which will earn the developer a fraction of a penny. These pennies build up to thousands upon thousands of dollars with an active player base. The other route is to make a one-time purchase product, which is generally more respected. Most studios will make separate versions for mobile and Steam though, to maximize their target audience and therefore profits. The mobile version being freemium and the Steam version being paid. What originally started as small developers creating silly, simple games with low barriers of entry quickly became a capitalistic acquisition of the mobile gaming space with idle games' rise in popularity. While there are plenty of indie developers making great clicker games, the most popular ones are seen on Google Play, made by bigger studios following the freemium formula. To wrap up, clicker games are built from the ground up to be addicting, even if it originally wasn't intentional. The main systems in clicker games are tied to each other in a way where you always have a bottleneck of income to improve, especially with infinite upgrades. If you want to see how I made my first clicker game, or how it performed, check out my videos on that. If you want to play it, you can wishlist it or buy it on Steam. I also have really big news coming soon. Self-plugging aside, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.